Hi, good afternoon and good morning, everyone. It's Paul from Ecommerce Camp one more time, and our new live talks today will start in a couple of minutes. But I want to introduce really quickly John Burke from Craft Gin Club. It's a e-commerce business that basically inspires me on LinkedIn when I've searched for unique models when it's subscription based and kind of mystery boxes. So I think nowadays when all of us trying to build a community around the products or around the brand that they represent, I think having chat with John will be quite useful uh, for us and for the attendees as well. Hi, John. Welcome to
Well,
e-commerce camp live talk.
thank you for having me. Thanks a lot.
So I appreciate your time, and I would say the very first point, just to introduce a little bit more about how this all started. How like we usually asking like, hey, how did you get this idea at first, and what inspires you to go this road? Do you mind to share a little bit?
Certainly, yeah. What inspired us to go this road? Well, I'm not sure if legally I'm allowed to say it was inspired by alcohol, but it's probably in the product itself pretty evident. My co-founder and I uh, met once in London. We were uh, friends from business school, and I was up visiting, and we were in a bar. I was talking about a guy I knew in Paris where I was living at the time who was running a whiskey club out of his bedroom. And my now co-founder said, well, that would work well with gin in this country. And I was looking to launch a business at the time. Him and I had left business school with a soft promise to do something together. And the wall of gin behind the bar that we were in was probably the inspiration, the visual inspiration that we needed at the time. And so I left, went back to Paris after the long weekend, and got to work on it. So inspired by booze and also the trends at the time. So I said the guy that I knew in Paris who was running a club out of his bedroom, that was inspiration for the business model. Plus, at that time, it was 2014 when we were talking about it. So that time, the subscription box craze was really taking off. So we put two and two together. The two of the two being the gin boom in the UK, which had been started by loads of micro distilleries that were launching, and gin's not the most difficult spirit to make. No offense to anybody, but but that's why a lot of these distilleries were churning out gin, because not only is it somewhat of a national drink, but it's relatively quick to get off the ground. So we were able to find very quickly loads of innovative suppliers to work with. And yeah, it was just the confluence of those two trends helped us to launch the company.
As of right now, how many active members do you guys have in your club?
Current active members are in the 50 and a bit thousand, I want to say, somewhere around that. It depends on how you define active members. Probably, if it's previous purchase 12 months, it must be much higher. I can't remember, but like active people that receive our subscription boxes hovers around 50,000 people.
And you mentioned that you've sent your product to more than 500,000 homes in the UK over the years.
Somewhere around that. Yeah, it's been 10 years now, so it's nearly 500,000, almost 11 years, I want to say now. Yeah, 500,000 homes have uh, received my delicious intoxicants.
So when I'm talking with the founders, right, who's starting this journey, right? Uh, do you remember like the very first like 500 customers? How did you acquire them? Was someone mentioned to me, oh, I was on Instagram, growth hacking, messaging on Instagram, etc. How did you, or like, as soon as the website is live, what was the initial step to start promoting it, if you remember?
back in the day, the social media landscape was quite different from what it is today. And by different, I mean easier, probably is the most direct definition. So we started by creating content and set up a Facebook page. It wasn't even Instagram at the time, it was just Facebook. And just started churning out. I didn't really know much about distilling or the technicalities of things, but also didn't want to get too far into that because it can be boring for a lot of people. So I was trying to create more entertaining content to push out on Facebook, obviously tagging the gin element onto it. So I think there was probably a good 6 weeks to 2 months of just creating an audience, primarily via Facebook and a blog we'd set up to build a newsletter list, and then from the newsletter list we started to sell subscriptions. Yeah, it was about 6 to 8 weeks in, and I do remember our first customer, and a guy from Northern Ireland. Was a loyal customer for a very long time. A good man. I've spoken with him a lot about his family and kids and business, and a really good guy. And I think that is emblematic, the relationship that I was just telling you about. Not that we've met in person, although I kind of dreamed about meeting him in person at some point. It's emblematic of the relationship you try to emulate as much as you can as you grow. And we have the word club in our name, which obviously shows that we're trying to create some sort of relationship with our customers and some sort of exclusivity around their membership. I think to be able to replicate or try to mimic as much as you can those sorts of personal relationships through a large digital club worked really, really well in the early years of the company. I think it's a difficult thing to do, but I think we pulled it off enough to create a real emotional connection with early subscribers, and I had a hell of a lot of fun doing it, really. But it was, back to the technical side of things, it was just a blog and Facebook and building your MailChimp newsletter list. Those aren't words we probably hear in common these days. It's a lot more complicated to build that audience. And one thing, just to elaborate a little bit more on what I meant by easier, there was obviously at the time a much more inventory, meaning much more ad space on these platforms. And so your posts would organically reach many more people. And so, I mean, we had posts that went viral, reached well over 1 million people a few times, and you could immediately see the uptick in customers when you put content out like that. So the whole content marketing strategy at the time that we launched was still pertinent today, but much easier at the time.
So it sort of started with a safe Facebook page. So for the first few months, there was no sales, it's just to build the audience, right? So yeah. Do you remember how many active subscribers in the MailChimp you had before you start actually offering something that they have to pay for?
We must have a few hundred newsletter subscribers by the time we signed up, and that was just, I think it was I want to say it was a weekly newsletter, but daily or several times a day posting content. And behind the scenes, obviously, because we bootstrapped the thing, it was just the two of us. My co-founder was working at the time. He was running another company. I decided to go full in on it. Took a punt, took a gamble, but was very confident we would create something worthwhile. And I think we must have had a few hundred subscribers before we set up the payment page, and then just casually said, by the way, we've got this product we're launching. If you're interested, sign up. So yeah.
Do you remember if at the very early stages you had any interesting way for people to bring the guest, etc.? Hey, like kind of be an affiliate or ambassadors or like any hidden tactics that allow you guys to growth hack your user base?
I mean, nothing out of the ordinary. Because we started quite slow without much technical knowledge. My co-founder has actually had an engineering background, understood some of that stuff more than I did. But at its core, it was a content marketing business. We actually launched it as a content marketing business. And when we got into that customer nurturing, it really, because it was only the two of us and we only had so much bandwidth, I think it really stuck to that content at the beginning. I don't remember when we started implementing referral programs. It certainly wasn't in the very early days or early months, because we wouldn't have the technical capacity to do it. We might have been able to do it manually. The honest answer is I can't remember when we would have started to implement what are typical marketing strategies. But we got surprisingly really, really far just by creating that relationship via the content we were publishing, and being quite personal in that content, trying to relate to the customer base, trying to figure out who that customer base was, by the way, as well, because the demographic that we thought we were going to end up with it was very different from the demographic who actually ended up appreciating the product. So we had to tweak our content that way. But it was really just trying to be as personal as possible and fun, and just entertain people, give them a bit of knowledge, and then once you create that rapport with them, and you sell them a high quality product. And I think that's not going to change. I think that still stands today. That's how you build a brand, right? You build a brand by creating some sort of emotional connection with people, and it's just the media, the means through which we communicate, which changes and evolves, and still is very rapidly. So as you've seen over the past 10 years, I think if you're starting the same company today, you would start very differently.
Really?
Well,
would you, that's a good
you would
message.
start tactically differently, not strategically, if you see what I mean. You would still want to create content and create that community through content, but the distribution methods, the type of content would probably be much different.
That's very interesting. So if I would be building, and I'm not necessarily saying like for the gin, etc. It might not be even spirits, but let's say I'm a beauty brand, or I'm a whatever, like a something for the pets food, etc. What would you take like differently right now in the current society, in terms of the channels and strategy that will be different from what it was like 10 years ago?
It's a very good question, and I don't have a specific answer, but all I can say is that what one thing that just came to mind is, which kind of relates to your question, is we were so successful on Facebook that it's actually quite difficult to figure out if the demographic we started attracting was because of the medium we were primarily publishing on, or if it was just the product that appealed to them and the medium was secondary, if that makes sense. So today, if I were going out again strategically, I would do the same thing: create great content and try to create a community. But from the beginning now, from what I can tell and from the conversations I have in our e-commerce subscription services circles, you just need more money to get that content out there. It's just the virality of things, the organic reach just isn't there anymore. So we're launching a brand. It's still much easier than it was decades ago. It's arguably harder than it was a decade ago, just because of the saturation of the channels and the need to pay more money. It's common knowledge in all of our circles that it became heavily pay to play, even pre-pandemic, slightly, probably a year before pre-pandemic. the algorithms change. You got to keep up with how they change and tweak your content, tweak your distribution, tweak your website infrastructure, or whatever it might be accordingly. So there's arguably more technical layers that are required as well, which means you need expertise. But if you're bootstrapping something and you don't have the money to bring in expertise, you're going to have to learn very, very quickly. Whereas I don't think we learned as quickly 10 years ago. If that makes sense to you.
One of the questions that I have as well, which came from my conversation today. So I have a customer of us. He's selling products like on a normal store. So we tried to implement. Well, I cannot share exactly which products, right? He asked me not to share that, but basically, the question here is, when you launched this, it was subscription based right away. You did not start selling gins as a bottle, some would say, right?
No.
Stuff like that. So what I, again, like transparently for people who will be watching this video. So I have a client when we started like a normal, like a sales channel e-commerce, when you buy one stuff at a time, and then we tried to implement subscription on top of that, so people can choose between subscribe or one-time deal. And unfortunately, subscription did not work, so people just still keep getting paid. So we ended up launching a completely different domain, and the tactic was just to promote subscription as one goal, as one channel, right? And then we've seen a significant success. So basically now we have two websites, one separate website just to sell a normal product, and then the second one which is basically selling subscription. So in your case, right, and I assume when you launched like subscription at first, did you even try to sell like bottles in a pack, etc.?
No, not at all. It was all done very asset light. So we were actually just drop shipping for about the first year. We had volumes that allowed us to drop ship from the distilleries, and some of the distilleries were extremely kind in working with us once we got up to a volume which took them a very long time to pack and ship out. We didn't have any relationships with packaging companies. We didn't have a warehouse. So it was all done very scrappy at the beginning because we didn't have any capital to put into it. But from that allowed us, I suppose, to build a subscriber base because behind the scenes we were selling the same product to everybody, and we weren't accumulating stock. We didn't have anywhere to put the stock. The idea was always to sell subscriptions anyway and make it an of the month sort of rhythm. So I'll try and address your the strategy that you've implemented with this company in a second. But I remember at the beginning we were only selling monthly, and it took us a while to realize that actually if we offered different frequencies, you could attract more people because not everybody was drinking a bottle of booze every month. So that was one decision that led to a good expansion of the customer base. But when it comes to the example of the client or colleague you just mentioned, and to be able to answer that a little bit better, does two questions: is it under the same brand name, and is the marketing similar? And second question would be, is the product more of a replacement product or a curated product or a special access type of product?
Yeah, it's even I'm gonna say it's a library of the digital products, right? In one website you can just download the digital product as a one-time transaction, or by the monthly fee you get access to all of the products in one go, download unlimited downloads, sort of
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that. Like imagine like you have a template, for example, you can buy the template, one template, or by paying a monthly fee, you can get access to all of the templates. They can download unlimited, that type
yeah.
of stuff. So it was not a physical product that will be shipped, but again, that's a interesting, the reason why I wanted to bring this into the conversation, because I can see like a lot of sites, especially on Shopify, who's trying to sell something as a product, and then suddenly I want to go and sell subscription, which is basically like a recurring revenue, and they think that by installing app whenever recharge or whenever others like sales subscription, they install it, but they can see that people are just not using it anymore, like just like at one time. They keep buying one time, they're not going for the repeated orders. So I have a question right now from Lauren, who's joining us. Do you think there is a general subscription fatigue now? It's no longer the innovative business model as it was 10 years ago, is now so mainstream, and consumers get overwhelmed by all of the subscription out there. So I think this is very much resonate with what we just discussed, which
Hmm.
is again basically, what do you think about subscription model in general? Like
Very
what's
good
your
question. Thank you, Lauren. Uh, how do I put this? Uh, they have their place in the market. Lauren's point that they're not innovative anymore. You could argued a long time ago that they weren't innovative. Like you could subscribe to a newspaper or magazine for a century. So look, they have their place in, I'd say, certain products with certain products with certain functions for certain demographics. We, as I guess, as a society, we've gotten used to being able to switch them off, turn them back on whenever we want. So the question, when you sign up to something with no commitment, you can even ask the question at that point, is it really a subscription? So I'd say they are, let's say they're a good example of products that niche communities will want. So think of all the talk, geez, it's got to be 20 years ago now, of the long tail online. The long tail being all of the small groups of people and interested in specific topics. Like if you're really into, I don't know, some specific science fiction author or something, there's probably like a core group of tens of thousands of people around the world who will want to know everything about this particular author, and they'd be really happy to subscribe to their stuff if they're giving them exclusive content or some sort of benefit for being a member. But if you're just signing up for, well, it gets back to the emotional connection, that niche group. If you're just signing up for dishwashing pods, which actually I really like that product. It's a good replacement product. Is it going to connect with tens of thousands of people that on an emotional level? Probably not. So are you going to miss it when it's gone and you need to go on your weekly supermarket trip anyway to where you can pick up dishwashing tablets? It becomes, it becomes questionable. I think the difference between replaceable products, such as the example I just gave, stuff that you can get off the supermarket shelf, and there's so many of them, and those niche products for fans, I think there's a very big difference from a subscription base versus a membership base. Now, they might be very similar proposals structurally, but they fulfill different needs for the consumer. And when you get back to product, because your original example was a digital product, so I can understand that. But when you get into physical products that could be easily found on a normal shopping trip or easily substitutable, you're probably going to have a little bit more difficulty in creating that sort of connection with the consumer. And then if you have a subscription to your dishwashing things and your protein powder and your toilet paper and whatever else, and you look at your bills, they tend to be more expensive than just buying it all at the supermarket, and you have to manage all those individual subscriptions. So I'm a little bit skeptical about those sorts of product subscriptions. But when you are in a niche, and our defense of my company, we are in a niche. We have we work with small businesses, small distilleries who are very innovative and very creative, and they produce one-off special editions for our membership base, and they really like getting those special editions, right? So that becomes more of a exclusivity access sort of product versus just I ran out of Gordon's, I need more. So I think I just spoke for probably 5 minutes about that. So long story short, there is room for subscriptions everywhere. I tend to think that the membership style, if you have a distinction between the two, is more enduring. And the second question, maybe you should ask it, is, but then how big can you get? So when you're a niche, how do you keep growing? So that's another topic that maybe you'll touch on later.
So basically, my understanding is, like, if you just want to have a repeated orders when replacement, like a water filters or something like that, it's a one concept, very much transactional. But if your business, you want to sell subscription kind of membership / club aspect, beside the products, you have to produce something which is not necessarily a physical stuff, but something that connects the community and give them extra value, engage them into your company. Like, for example, if you're in the fabric business, I'm going to be, because I know Lauren, she's in the fabric business, right? And so, for example, for you, if you want to build a subscription model, potentially any type of tips or video or guides or ideas or creative things, materials, if you put this all together as part of your subscription and membership things, that's probably will be an interesting concept, that by being a member of your website, I'm not just getting repeated orders with the different fabrics each month, but the inspiration and connection with people like me, like kind of social element. And it's not necessary, you don't have to reinvent the wheel and have like your own Facebook.
Yeah.
Even access to the Facebook group for members when they share their ideas. That could be a little bit of the bonus. And for e-commerce camp, for example, we are going to be trying school.com, which is basically the platform for e-commerce businesses to connect and share the content privately, not publicly. So that's, for example, our way as well. So aside from being an agency, we are building this community when we allow our clients, and not just the clients, to speak with like business owners like John. I would love to ask you more things, if you don't mind. You're like, at some point, I know you went for the Dragon Den, and I had Ben from Phrygia, who went there as well, and his live talk was a really good one as well. He shared some backstage, points. When did you how did you realize that you want to go there, or they approached you? Tell me a story about the Dragon Den.
Sure, we got approached, actually. It was nothing that I'd considered. I didn't even live in the country at the time, so I didn't even really know it was a thing. And we almost immediately accepted there's a preliminary stage where you go in and make your pitch to whoever's filtering the companies to move on to the recording. But I think we certainly realized early on it was a PR coup. You basically get a 10-minute infomercial for your business on national broadcast. It's a no-brainer. So well, it's a no-brainer if you don't screw it up. But I think there's even plenty of examples of companies who have not received investment or might have had a bad, might have suboptimal pitch, who have gone on to grow amazing companies. So we just realized it was a great PR opportunity. We hadn't thought about raising investment or anything at the time. I think we were only a year and a bit into it when we got the letter from the BBC. So we were very much head down, nose to the grindstone, just doing day to day, trying to build the company bit by bit, as opposed to worrying about these bigger PR marketing questions. Well, outside of social media marketing questions, shall I say? And yeah, I think we passed the interview, and within a couple of months we're filming. It all went very quickly. And you just prepare your little speech, know your numbers. Ultimately, we stood in front of the dragons for about an hour and 3/4. It's obviously all dramatized on television, but they're real serious people with real serious questions. And if you don't know your stuff, they're going to tear you apart. Fortunately, the two of us had come from business school, so we had a good idea of how to pitch to them, and we definitely knew our numbers. And we got a lot of them excited. I mean, it's a little bit not representative of a real relationship with a venture capitalist or a private equity fund, because you literally, like, in one session you get drilled on everything, and there's afterwards you basically say yes or no. You get the yes or no on screen, but then behind the scenes there's obviously due diligence. A lot of the deals fall apart after the broadcast, and fortunately ours didn't fall apart. But how I say that it all went really quickly. It all came together really fast. So we went, I think within 6 months, we'd done everything and had investment without even thinking of bringing on investment before. And by the time we took on the investment, the company was doing very, very well already prior to the broadcast. And then the broadcast hit, and we did like 6 months of business in 10 days or something. So it really gave us a boost. I'm not sure I answered your question exactly, but I think it's fair to say that I just wanted to point out that they are, they might be on TV and whatnot, but they ask proper questions, and they were good. I would have been happy to have anybody as an advisor on that panel.
Okay, so with raising investment, it's also extra responsibilities for you to report to them, etc. If I would ask you, right, like if there will be a chance to go for the second time for the Dragon's Day, would you go now?
With a different business, sure.
Okay.
With their current business, I was just speaking of. I doubt they would let repeat people back on, but I would do it again just because the publicity is spectacular. But obviously, same thing. You want to know your stuff. You got to prepare for a proper pitch, and I would encourage anybody to get. Do
you know, like, because they approached you? Did you even ask them why us? Because I wonder, what's the benchmark my client have to achieve to get, like, the interest from this show?
Good question. I can't remember if we heard through the grapevine or if we heard directly from the people who filter the companies that they send letters out to. But it did have something to do with the gin boom that was happening and the subscription boom. So I think the research team was very much looking for something in that space or one of those spaces, and just stumbled upon us and sent us over. Yeah.
So they probably Google you guys and all right, and find out, all right, guys, that sounds like, okay, cool. Yeah. So I have a question as well here. How much do you know about the demographics of your subscription members? I surveyed my customers and found 80% of them are 45 years and older, and generally the surveys show they were not up for a digital subscription. Do you think younger demographics are more open and likely to join subscriptions? What's your take on this? So what do you think? How deep you are? How do you know you? I'm gonna say this way: if someone will be asking this question, how would you learn about the customer demographics? How would you interview your clients, etc.? Like, can you share a little bit more about that?
Sure. Well, we have one advantage is that we sell booze, so you can ask for their birth date right from the get-go because you have to confirm they're 18. So that's helpful on our end. But we put out surveys ourselves sometimes, and we have worked with some agencies in the past who have gone out and discovered a little bit more about the demographic as well. But we know the demographics very, very well. And I suppose one of the challenges has been a challenge that all companies have really when they build their core customer base is how do you expand beyond those demographics? And so that is a real challenge because when you build that core base and things are going well and you have a great relationship with them all, but you want to grow, you start to walk a really fine line there because you could do stuff which makes the core customer base angry or turned off by what you're doing and doesn't quite resonate with the new demographic you're approaching. So it's very, very challenging to make everybody happy. I wouldn't recommend trying to make everybody happy, but would certainly recommend attempting to use your core customer base to help you try to reach new customers, meaning doing product tests with them, asking your customer base to make recommendations to their friends and family who might not be interested in your core product but might be interested in other products, and trying to it's a type of market research to help you figure out as a company which products you should be creating to grow the company. I'm digressing a bit from the main questions. I apologize, but the real answer is very well. Certain parts of your customer base will be open to filling out surveys. So if you can get 5% of your customer base to answer a survey, you'll get a real feel for who they are. It's statistically relevant at that point. You might be surprised. What I mentioned earlier is we thought, because at the time the demographic of gin geeks we thought we were going to attract a bunch of hipsters, who hang out in Shoreditch. And it turned out to be basically middle-aged women, largely. So when we realized that as well, I found myself as a middle-aged guy trying to create content to appeal to what turned out to be middle-aged women and not the young hipster type that we thought we were attracting. And so we duly hired a middle-aged woman, not quite middle-aged at the time, but a female to speak to to the customer base, just to probably resonate a little bit better with them than I was.
That's interesting. So one of the points that we discussed with you is just like how it's important to hire the right people. So I think when you just mentioned, okay, we started two friends started out of the business school, and then that was the first hire that you made, this lady.
Yeah, first hire.
Yeah. And that's amazing. Like I was thinking that you probably have like male 40 plus, drinkers, and you just said it's ladies,
No, not at all. Not at all. The first, I think it was something like the first 10 hires we made were all ended up being women. Not that we tried to do that; it just happened that way because they were the best candidates. But what's even more important to the story is the emphasis on content. I think the first 5 hires, 4 hires maybe, it's a long time ago, were all content focused. That's how much emphasis we were placing on creating this community. We needed people to churn out content and talk to them, and those were the first hires we made, and that was over probably a 8-month period, probably. The Dragon's Den cash injection helped us to accelerate that hiring. When we filmed Dragon's Den, we had only taken on one. This lady who I told you about, our first hire, had joined us 4 or 5 months prior to us filming it, and then the second hire joined a few months after we filmed it. So it was a very lean operation at the time. So all the time we spent preparing for that Dragon's Den, when it was just the 2 of us with this our first hire, took a lot of time away from building the business at the same time. But you have to have some sleepless nights now and again.
Yeah, you have to work hard, 100%. What's the as of right now? I'll do your mind. Can you list tools that you guys use right now on day-by-day basis? So I know your platform is Shopify. What else? Which marketing channels and which tools, if you know?
Yeah, I'll tell you. I haven't worked in the business for a few years, but I'll obviously sit on the board, so I'll tell you what I know from that level. Tools, as you mentioned, Shopify. We've been using Recharge, but have been speaking with some others, I want to say. I'm not sure how those conversations have gone. Then we were, Metria. I was about to say MailChimp. That was a long time ago. But I think we've just switched to Klaviyo for our CRM. And what's the other key stuff? Data platform. The name escapes me now. I think it's a Google product, if that rings a bell.
No, did not really ring with me, but that's fine. So
I can't remember. But that's just to analyze the cohorts. I can't remember. Anyway, the data platforms are quite important, so that you can track how your cohorts are performing and you know how to message them. But historically, and I can't speak to if this would work today, but historically, we were very tech light, and somewhat ironically, but logically, it will make sense, because my co-founder was an engineer by trade, and I was a total novice in anything technological. His message from the very beginning was, we're an e-commerce company. We don't really need tech. So we built it very tech light to start off with. And he would put some patches on this and Zapier these things together. I think we ran off a Google Sheets database for like the first 4 or 5 years of the company, not exaggerating. We had tens and tens of thousands of members being serviced through Google Sheets that he had put together and connected to MailChimp and whatever else we were using at the time. Some very light touch tech. We've invested more recently in stuff, but I can't speak to it in any great detail. But I would be curious to know from the community how simple you can keep your tech stack while still being effective. Because it happens in every company, right? You kind of get IT creep, and you sign up to this and you sign up to that because they serve a specific function, but then it gets a little bit unwieldy and nothing's talking to each other. And so I'm actually trying to determine for our company from a board level if we've just gotten a bit too complex with our tech stacks as well. I don't have the answer yet, but I would love to know from your community what they think. Because I think my co-founder's message back in the day was right. You are, at the end of the day, just selling products, right? Your goal is to sell things. From a revenue perspective, your goal is to sell product. So the least amount of tech you have, you can effectively use to sell those products, probably the better, and not to get distracted by all the shiny new toys and bells and whistles that some software are trying to sell to you?
Well, there are a bunch of the, just to answer your question, there are a bunch of the tools that people use on Shopify. Obviously for the email, Klaviyo, they also have now WhatsApp, which probably you can test as well. Then uh, for the live chat, there is a eDesk, Zendesk that they're using most of the time. They're also implementing inventory management system, order fulfillment, and stuff like that. There's a Stockly, etc. So there's quite a bit of different tools, Leanworks and um, Vico, etc. So everyone will have its own stock, obviously. But for someone who will be watching this, any questions that you will have about e-commerce, you can go on your phone, type ecommercecamp.co.uk/chat, and you can join the community of 120 plus e-commerce business owners, and then raise your questions over there. Hey guys, I'm John here. There's a question. What do you guys use? What do you use for A/B testing? Which platform? There's tons of platforms, and I completely, even I'm lost. Even I'm lost all the time. I cannot pick up, right? So we were we were testing what 4 or 5 different platforms for A/B testing. We pick up one, but again, it was like, okay, let's try this one, let's try that one. So even for live streaming, we've tested 3 different tools, find the one which fits our needs, and then we stick to this. And
Is it
we
within that? Do you find a massive difference from one to the next, or is it just certain features that work better?
So I would say, first of all, they might charge in a different way, right? So sometimes they give you access to only one platform, right? For example, for you as a business, for example, money-wise, that would be nice to use like one platform. For me as an agency, we we might need to have like an agency account and then have all of our clients as sub accounts, which still links to one primary one. So they have usually different features um, for the agency to use these tools, but for you, again, if we're talking about the A/B testing, for you as a solo brand, there will be no much differences. One platform can be more adapted to the platform as Shopify. So for the Shopify, for example, there is some tools that will be my preferences. Don't want to name this tool; they're not paying for this, but if you ask me which we decided to use, we will be using Convert.com because we also have merchants on WooCommerce, on Magento, and on Shopify. So for us, Convert.com seems worked quite well. Again, but obviously, there will be some integration stuff that needs to happen. So which channel do you use mostly to create new leads, offline and online?
That has changed tremendously over the course of the company, and there's been a higher emphasis on partnerships with both other subscription boxes. So you do insert swaps, obviously offline, and partnerships with the likes of like the phone companies, O2, Vodafone, all those guys, Savendis. Yeah, so companies like that, a mixture of on and offline, really, has been a higher emphasis now than social media. Social media still dominates the marketing mix, if I'm remembering my board packs correctly. But a higher emphasis on partnerships has happened because. But there's a different demographic in those channels, and I'm not sure if we found the right if we overextended ourselves in those channels or what it might be, but they don't seem to be as sticky as a consumer who might be a little bit more considered in joining your product. And that's a function of both just I suppose the media market and the fact that with subscription style services, there's no commitment. So if you go and offer somebody 75% off, pretty high percentage of them are just going to take the deal and run. And that's something that our peer companies are challenged by as well. And we're all sort of rethinking how we attract new customers. and the ones that are succeeding more are actually de-emphasizing acquisition and focusing much more on retaining and making their current customer base happy. And that might have to do with a mixture of the channels becoming less effective and just really to market saturation. I think companies like ours have been around for long enough now that the broader consumer base is probably pretty aware of them and will know yes or no very quickly if they want to sign up to a subscription based company, just because we've been around for so long. So yeah, it's become challenging, but what hasn't changed is creating that emotional connection. That will never change. So a refocused emphasis on branding and making your customer base happy, retaining them, is what I would suggest to people.
So you said the social media right now is still #1 channel for you to get like a new customers,
Same.
right?
If I'm remembering the statistic, yeah, it's still pretty high. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you know, because there's a bunch of the social networks right now, Facebook, Instagram, etc., TikTok booming. Do you know by any chance, is it still the Facebook is the #1?
Meta globally. I don't know
Meta globally.
I don't know what the split between Facebook and Insta is on.
Yeah, okay, Meta.
And well, obviously, search is still a big thing as well, and you're trying to figure out how to use the new AI SEO, which I can't remember what that's called now. But yeah, it's still largely Facebook and Meta, Google, just like everybody does. We do have TikTok channels and the like. TikTok doesn't allow advertising for alcohol, so we can publish content, but we can't push it out there really. So it's a bit frustrating, understandable, but frustrating from a business owner perspective. Yeah, it's still mostly Meta and Google.
For everyone who's watching, so we've done a live show with Ayal from Particle for Men. It's the beauty brand, and so he said, if you cannot get on Meta, like as a social network, as a channel, then everything else will be a waste of the time. So first figure it out Meta, and then do everything else. So that was like his takeaway, and he was like, he's right now 100 million brand selling only 18 products. Yeah, so it's a pretty interesting conversation that you guys can look up on the Ecommerce Camp website. Yeah, so well, so I think in the general there's some takeaways out of this. #1, it's subscription still a thing, but you have to split subscription from like a refills product, kind of like that. Like focus on the content first, build the community first, and then try to sell something. If you have a community, which is, by the way, guys, we have also one more live talk with Vinny from 1000 Libraries. He built a community about 1.3 million on Instagram just by posting the photos of different libraries around the globe. And then he monetizing this by selling only 2 books on his website.
That's really cool.
So it's this really cool one to watch, by the way. So yeah, and so social media is still the things. It's 100%. You have to go for it. Hiring the right people, know your audience. Ideally, you will find out who's your target person, who's your target customer, and then hire a person in-house that's match that demographic. I think that's from the sound of it, that was the key decision for you guys.
Yeah. It also told me that I should probably stay with my wife, because my ability to speak with middle-aged women is just totally disappeared. So that's why we had to hire that person as well.
That's probably also a question for Lauren. She said that her audience is like a woman 45 plus. So I mean, like, I don't know why they're not consuming the digital product if they're not active. I think there's, I mean, it's my age to be quite honest, and I'm very active on social media. You know, we're still there, so I think it's about probably just to broadcasting the right stuff, which just resonate with them, etc. You know, getting a third party opinion. So, well, John, like that was a really insightful discussion. And I definitely wanna invite you as a speaker for our next e-commerce camp, which will be in person because
Oh,
like
it'd be a
we will
pleasure.
also do we do twice a year. It's in-person meetings, etc. The next one probably will be about April, May. So when you can share a little bit more and
Yeah,
for the person and then yourself, you probably get quite a bit of interesting people in the room that you can ask your questions about what tools they're using, etc. So I definitely
yeah,
want to
definitely.
welcome you to our community. Absolutely.
That'd be a pleasure. If you don't mind my saying, just real quickly as you're going out, in building these communities, we're building them digitally, but real world events, people crave that. They want to, it's, with a product like mine, for instance, it's an experience. You're supposed to smell and taste it, and if you have a product like that, and if you don't have a product, even if you don't have a product like that, your guy with the library, for instance, he can get people together to talk about his books. My company can get people together to have a drink and enjoy themselves. Those real world events, despite the fact that we're digitally native businesses, are going to be, I think, increasingly important for brand building and for creating that relationship, for maintaining that relationship with people. So I wouldn't discount those sorts of activities as well. But you got to measure them correctly, because if you go into it with the thought that I need to sell X amount, or I need to uh, sign up X amount of subscribers, it's probably the wrong way to go about it. You want to go about it with, okay, I obviously don't want to lose a lot of money on this, but I want to consider that it's a marketing operation. I'm creating I'm creating relationships. I'm consolidating relationships with my customer base by doing this. So that's just long-term value, which is harder to measure than your traditional digital marketing. So I really like the fact that you do these events. I would love to come. So I accept prematurely your invitation, and yeah, look forward to speaking with the community.
Sounds good. Everyone, thanks for being with us. Thanks for the questions that you've sent. Hopefully you enjoyed this discussion. John, one more time, I appreciate your time today.
My
Wish you
pleasure.
all the best. You know, best Black Friday, Christmas. Hopefully, this will be a huge season for you guys now,
Oh, here
because
again.
yeah. So, and I'm looking forward to hear your success pretty soon.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks a lot for the invitation. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye bye, everyone.
Cheers. Bye bye.